Well, hello and welcome to the 5th of May update. I don't anticipate this being a particularly long update, but it's just to bring you up to date with what's happened in the last week with my modelling and what we've got planned in the next week or two. So the first thing to say is that the Type 90 main battle tank with the mine roller that I've had on the go for a couple of weeks now. I finally finished it a couple of days ago. You can see it here. For the first serious piece of armour I built for about a decade, I'm really quite happy with the way it's come out. I haven't gone overboard with the weathering or anything on it. I've given it some washes, some pin washes, a couple of filters, and some dust, which I've used Humbrol enamels sprayed on and then worked with thinners to represent the dust build up over the model. Japanese armour always appears to me to be fairly sort of clean. Not too battered and beaten, so I haven't had any scratches or chips to the model, and it's fairly clean. It's got that kind of just come back from maybe a short summer exercise look about it, I like to think. The other things I did with the the mine rollers on the front here, they were ultimately quite a challenge because you have to hang these rollers themselves from small lengths of chain, and there's also a small length of chain here which goes between the two rollers. That was a few hours worth of work and maybe the odd expletive here and there, but ultimately it's come out okay. The mine rollers had the same weathering and dust treatment. What I've also done was to actually go over the rollers themselves with some of the AK Interactive Dark Steel pigment, working it into the rollers themselves with a brush to make it look a bit worn and the metal, exposed metal. But other than that, as I say, I've been fairly restrained with the finishing of the model. I struggle a little bit with pigments, so I want to take things gently and build up some heavier weathering jobs as I go, so I don't want to ruin anything by going overboard with things like pigments and getting it wrong, shall we say. So I used a little bit of hairspray and chipping on the jerry cans and water cans in the rear turret bustle stowage. But apart from that, it's just that's the model finished. That's about 2 weeks worth of work, and I have to say, overall, really pretty happy with the way it's come out for my first my first serious attempt for a decade or so. So yeah, hope you like that. So I'm now clear for my next armour project, but if we just place that out of the way, what I really want to get back to next is chopping and changing subjects. I think we're probably going to get back to the kinetic Kfir and hopefully get that completed and painted over the next few days. I've literally over the last week I've done nothing to this because I've been working on the Type 90 pretty much exclusively. So from where you saw it last time, nothing's been done. So there's nothing more to say that I didn't say last time, other than I've been looking around at some colours. It's going to be an Ecuadorian Air Force aircraft, and the lighter green for the Ecuadorian Air Force is stated to be 34258. Now 34258 is a colour that was used on some things like Aggressor F5Es and stuff like that. It's quite it's a pale sort of apple yellowy green. I was looking at photographs of Ecuadorian Kfirs and Mirage F1s for that matter online, and one thing that struck me was that certainly the colour, the lighter colour of the camouflage was nothing like 34258. So I set about trying to get a sort of reasonable likeness to that colour, and I spent many hours, well not many hours, but an hour or so messing around with various Tamiya acrylics. The nearest one I could find to the base colour was XF49, which is khaki, which is a browny green, but it appeared to be sort of lighter and a bit browner. So I experimented with adding flesh and various pale sort of brown colours and sand colours, and at one point I even added a light grey, because I thought perhaps just greying it out might turn it that kind of greeny browny colour, pale greeny browny that I wanted. That didn't work, and remarkably, well not remarkably, but eventually the colour I came with to bring it to roughly the right tonal, the right tone was just plain white added to XF49 khaki. And here it is. I used one of my test beds. This is an old Zvezda Sukhoi T50, which will never be finished, so I use it as a bit of a test bed these days. And so I tested it on to try and get the colours and colour matches right, and the colours I've settled on more or less for the camouflage of this will be this mixture of XF49 and white. And for the green, the darker green, this green here, I did use originally khaki, which I lightened a bit, but that's far too olivey. We need more of a green sort of colour. So XF58, which is funnily enough olive green, but it is quite a green colour, and a few drops of XF15 flesh added to that to lighten it up. Seems to have given me the kind of contrast between the two upper surface camouflage colours that I want. So they're going to be the basis for the Ecuadorian camouflage on this Kfir. So stay tuned, and hopefully I'll have an update up on just specifically for the Kfir in the next week or so, showing that camouflage in place. So that's where we are with that this week. So we'll be going back to the Kfir over the next day or two. So what have we had new this week? Well, I've had a few new kits turn up this week. New piece of armour. I did pick up the Trumpeter T64. I like the T64. It's kind of like the progenitor of the T72 line. The T72 is essentially a T64 made more cheaply, shall we say. The T64 was quite a complicated advanced vehicle, and they simplified it, and the result was a T72. So doing things like T72s and T90s and things like that, the T64 is sort of like the father of all of those big, larger Soviet vehicles with the big 125mm gun. So looking at that, it's a beautiful model. I've had a good look through it, and that might well not be far off actually being one of my next armour projects. I've also got this Zvezda T90, which I want to do quite soon. So we'll have to see where we go. Another new subject, another new model that's finally, it's been out for about a month now, but I finally got one this week, was, well I got two of them this week in actual fact, is the Eduard Spitfire Mark 9C. This is sold as the late version, and by late version it's got the large carburettor intake underneath the nose. Early versions had a much smaller intake. One of the things I noticed about this is that you can only do a late large carburettor intake from it, because the way the wing's been tooled means that they're going to need an entirely new lower wing to do the smaller carburettor intake, which will no doubt come along in due course. But this the Eduard Spitfire is quite phenomenal. It's absolutely beautiful. There's no worrying about things like cannon bulges, which quite often many manufacturers have moulded as complete cannon panels, which you have to let into the surface of the wing, which is invariably a complete nightmare to get to fit any sense, and you end up filling and sanding and rescribing to make them look good. It's a really awkward way to do it. Edouard have bitten the bullet, and they will clearly be doing separate upper wing panels for the different blisters that the Spitfire 9 had, and you know, there's absolutely no complaints here about that as an approach. One of the only things that I don't like, and I will show you, is that they have moulded the cannon stubs and barrels into the leading edge, and you butt joint the actual barrels themselves to that area. Bluntly, I think it's a horrible idea. I always have. Even Airfix abandoned that method of doing this a couple of 48 scale models ago, and now offer you cannons which are let into holes in the leading edge of the wing completely. You set the depth and glue them, and it ends up with a very strong join. The problem with the butt joint, even with a pin to locate it, as these have got, is it's always going to be weak. You've got an awkward joint to clean up, because you have to get between those stubs to clean up the leading edge of the wing, and if that's not done properly, it just ends up looking, in my opinion, it ends up looking pretty scrappy. I really don't like it. So for each of my Edouard Spitfires, there will be a set of master models, brass barrels and stubs, which I will purchase separately. You look around on eBay, you can get them for £3.50, something like that a set. Highly recommended for all your Spitfires. Get the right set, and all I'm doing is getting a set, throwing them in the box with the rest of the model, so that I know they're there when I come to build the model. So, like I say, a phenomenal model, but mounting the cannon stubs and barrels to the leading edge, really, Edouard, really, in 2013, I think that's really quite poor, and it's something you could really do with looking at in the future. Nevertheless, I'm not going to particularly let that minor complaint overshadow the rest of the kit, which is frankly brilliant, and is apparently the lead-in for a whole series of these Spitfires. They have said that there will be a Spitfire Mark 8 due at some point, which I love. I think the Spitfire 8 is the genuine Merlin engine thoroughbred of the Spitfire line. And there'll be 9Es, and they have said possibly 5Cs at some point as well. So Edouard really appear to be grasping the Spitfire nettle and giving us some fantastic models. If we drop down to 72nd scale now, I've had a couple of sword kits turn up this week. The F94B Starfire. This model has been in the works for a few months now. Now, previous F94Bs in 72nd scale, Hella released one in the mid-80s. I think about 1985 they released one. Not a bad model, one or two minor problems, raised detail, but you know, a pretty nice model overall. But here we are, sort of nearly 30 years later, with a new kit. There's three markings options in the kit. It's all recessed detail, and these days sword kits have come on to the stage where, although they are limited run, they're really very nicely tooled and moulded indeed, and I think this will certainly be far superior to the Hella kit, good though that was for its time. Carrying on with this, the Lockheed, shall we say, F80 family line was something which came as a bit of a surprise to many people, and they've done the T2V1 Sea Star. Now this was a T33, completely redesigned essentially. They raised the rear seat, so it had a stepped rear seat for the instructor. It was much stronger structure, carrier capable, and I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see the actual shape looks actually quite different from the T33. Again, modern tooling. It's limited run technically, but like I say, given the way that most of their kits are these days, limited run. But I suspect there'll be no real problems with building it, and that should make a really nice subject, and one that one that's a bit of a rarity and that you don't see around very often. So there we are. So that's the new kits that have turned up this week. As I say, I've gone over the where we are with the Tip Type 90, which is finished, and the Kfir, which I'll be proceeding with now that the bench is clear of the Type 90, and also looking at my next piece of armour. So thanks for tuning in, guys. One thing I have added, I'm going to add a little bit of video at the end of this, a little bit of bonus if it comes out. Just going to show you the state my workbench gets into while I'm actually building a model sometimes, and this, you know, my workbench turns into the archetypal disaster area where you're working in kind of that much space because there's just tools and lotions and potions absolutely everywhere. So that's just a bit of fun that I've hopefully I took a bit of video of it the other day, and hopefully it'll come out and will be something for you to have a chuckle at and maybe even relate to, as long as you're not one of those OCD super clean modelers, which yeah, there are a few of those freaks around. Don't understand them, how they manage it, but all power to them. So there you go, guys. That's the update for the 5th of May, and I'll see you in you know, a week or two. And as I say, 5th of May, happy Cinco de Mayo to all my South American friends. Take care now, and I'll see you soon. Well, something I've never really showed is my workbench, the disaster area it turns into after a couple of days worth of modelling on whatever subject I'm doing. So I just thought I'd take this little video to show you how my workbench invariably ends up looking after a few days of modelling. So here it is. Please don't be too horrified. So as you can see, there's the Type 90 in the middle there. And yes, genuinely, all of this lot is the stuff I've been using while I've been playing with this model. So there's the other project on the go, the Kfir, which is just placed back there out of the way a little bit at the moment. And there's one half of the T90 box, and there's the other half. Yeah, it's probably we're about due for a bit of a tidy up so I can make some space. That there, that mouse, by the way, that goes with that laptop to play music through that player. So yeah, using the mouse is a bit of a problem. I have to clear a little space, but then I have to clear a little space to do pretty much anything at the moment, as you can clearly see. So anyway, I just thought I'd share with you the disaster area that is my modelling bench after a few days worth of modelling. So there you go, that's where the magic happens. So I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye bye.